as of right now, we're going to get into spoilers. It's really hard to talk about this movie without spoilers, with how dark it is. I don't even know where to start. I guess we can just talk about kind of the arcs of each character. I mean, Batman, we talked about how there isn't much Bruce Wayne in this movie.
Yeah.
That's just for a good reason, because Bruce Wayne doesn't know how to be Bruce Wayne at this point. He just wants to be Batman. He's vengeance. He's just out there trying to bust some heads, stop some crime.
And you could even see when he was being Bruce Wayne, he was wearing glasses or he was squinting at the sun. Like he wasn't used to seeing,
Not being,
you know.
he's just not used to being out and about, mingling with, the high society crowd, within Gotham. And that's really a lot of people's complaints about the movie is, there's no Bruce Wayne, or they just thought that Robert Pattinson's portrayal of Bruce Wayne sucked. And I just think they did this for a reason. They didn't want to go with, the typical Bruce Wayne playboy right out the gate, like every single movie in the series.
Yeah.
I feel like as these movies progress, either in the second or third, I think we will get that playboy Bruce Wayne, because I think
this was a very focused Bruce Wayne.
Exactly.
He didn't care about Bruce Wayne at all. He was very focused on Batman and his mission and the Gotham Project and everything there. So
exactly.
I think it was great, man. I love this portrayal because he didn't care about Bruce Wayne.
No,
realistically,
not at all.
like that wasn't a thing to him. He was just that when he needed to be type of. So he was the Batman to him. So I liked it, and like you said, I think they will portray more like he's gonna kind of get away from that once he kind of, we'll see what happens to him, but once he kind of starts to discover himself a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that you really start to see that there at the end of this movie. Whenever, because obviously this is spoilers. I mean, whenever oh my god, what an amazing scene! But whenever he gets shotgun blasted right in the chest, and he's just chilling there, Catwoman, gets attacked. She's trying to help him up, but like, first off, I'm pretty sure he shoots himself with venom, like the shit that Bane uses. I'm pretty sure that's what he injects, because it's that green shit that he injects himself with. I think that's a callback, like, to what maybe Bane in the future. Who knows? There's a lot of different things.
What that was?
People were saying it's adrenaline, but I think it's venom.
I thought it was the drops. To be honest, I was like, "Is this that drug that they've been trying to fight all movie?"
I don't know, maybe, but like with how green it was, I think it was the venom. But yeah, he beats the hell out of that dude, man. Like, dude's face is like black and blue.
Stops him, you know what I mean?
And then that moment where he's just like, where they ask him who he is, and he says vengeance, bro. Whoa, like shook Batman. It shook him. He's like, oh shit, I can't be doing this. And that really, from there on, in that great scene, him rescuing those people, in the water, he's walking out with that flare and everything. He's helping people.
That scene right there, where it was above, and you could just see him with the red flare against the water.
God,
we didn't even talk about why the water was there.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, man. But sticking on Batman as of right now, that moment, he was kind of, going in the water and coming out. He was kind of baptized into a new person. He comes out and he realizes, he can't just be vengeance. He has to be kind of a symbol of hope. Going forward for Gotham. He has to help these people. It's not just about, beating the hell out of these dudes looking for answers.
Not just about beating up bad guys.
Yeah,
looking for answers. Like you said, it's about, if you really want to save Gotham, you got to instill hope in the people.
Exactly.
Because there is no hope in the city.
Exactly. And not only can he do that as Batman, but he can also do that as Bruce Wayne, which, earlier in the movie with Alfred's like, you got to talk to these, like, your bankers and all these. You're hiding from them pretty much. You haven't made an appearance. Gives him his cufflinks and everything. But I think going forward, as he figures out how to be Bruce Wayne, maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll start seeing him get even more dressed up. Maybe he'll cut his hair or slick his hair back. He'll like start looking more like Bruce Wayne and like act.
He'll look like Robert Pattinson from Tenet.
Exactly.
That's exactly what Bruce Wayne's gonna look like.
That's exactly what it'll look like. He'll be putting on that persona where he's just like mingling with these people. He'll be in that Bruce Wayne persona. He'll figure out how to do both. Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person in this movie. He's acting the same way. Like, he's gonna figure out how to do both going forward in these, I think, and I think that's going to be great. Actually seeing a progression through these couple movies here. Same way with the Penguin with the HBO series. I don't know if that's going to be before this movie or if it's going to be like after this movie, like him kind of taking control of the crime and Gotham, I guess, over Falcone, because Falcone, he was great, John Turturro in this movie, but he bites the dust, Riddler takes care of him. Got popped.
He got popped, man. He got taken care of.
He did.
And the thing about it is, like, we learned that Catwoman is, I mean, this is in the comics, but we learned that Catwoman is her or his daughter,
his daughter,
so like that was a huge connection she had with everything there. So with him gone, like you said, the Penguin and multiple other people are gonna be trying to take over this city now.
Yeah, and they kind of throw like a little monkey wrench in there. They kind of led you a different way at first. Like whenever that cool scene where like Batman, the little technology he has, the contacts that records everything were pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he gives them to her to kind of go in there and check out because he can't go in there and do it. Hidden area of the iceberg lounge. But you kind of get that little interaction on her way out where she runs into Falcone, and there was history between them, and they kind of make it seem like she was like working there. It kind of gives you an impression of something else, and then it leads to her being his daughter.
Right.
Which was I like the way they twisted that. But yeah, Batman's arc in this, I like Catwoman's arc in this because they actually gave her a story. She was hiding her friend that was dating. Wasn't she involved with the mayor that was killed?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the reason he went to investigate.
Right, she ended up getting killed as well. And that's what set Catwoman off, as far as being angry and trying to get all these answers because she disappeared. She found her,
Yeah, and then whenever they get back, she's gone again, and they have to looking for her. But yeah, I liked her arc in this as well. Zoe Kravitz was great. I can't wait to see more of her. She was fantastic. Riddler, we couldn't really talk about without getting into spoilers because there's really so little of him. I mean, he's in it somewhat, but he's kind of well hidden.
Yeah, there's apparently multiple shots of him throughout the beginning of the movie. Right? He's in shots like in a window or something, and like
really?
you don't. Yeah, man.
I didn't know that.
I cannot wait to watch this movie again just so I could look for all this stuff.
Yeah,
but
you find out he's like right across the street from like the police station, pretty much, like just chilling. But Paul Dano was absolutely great in this movie. He was so creepy and menacing. And I loved the musical cue, like Ave Maria, every time that it was involved with the Riddler plotting his tricks. Like you mentioned in the non-spoiler review, that scene in pretty much the beginning of the movie where the mayor's just walking around, talking on the phone, and the TV flashes, and he's just kind of standing there. Oh, it gives me chills thinking about it, man. And that's how the movie kicks off.
And like the movie it kicks off with him looking at the mayor through the goggles, like, so he sees him.
You didn't know who it was or what was going on,
right?
Like, is it the Riddler? Is it Batman just doing investigizzle or something? Like,
yeah, exactly. And it was kind of like a theme in the movie with people looking through goggles, like spying, and that's just it felt so Batman, man. And the Riddler, all those Batman notes and the cards and how the cards had it was so awesome to see him just spin this web, catch like running Gordon and Batman through a loop here and just coming out in jail, but still getting what he wanted, even though.
Yeah. I mean, he turned himself in. That was part of the plan.
Yeah, exactly. He still ended up getting what he's wanted, even though the end Batman stopped for a lot of people from dying.
Yeah,
he still blew up all those walls. Yeah, and flooded the entire city, man.
Which is a crazy way to start out a first movie in a trilogy, is to flood your entire city at the end of the first movie, man.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's going to lead into kind of I don't know if you heard about No Man's Land. It was a kind of an arc in the Batman comics where something similar happens where it leaves Gotham pretty much in disarray, and they kind of section it off because it's just so diminished. Like I think there was flooding among other shit. I think there was earthquakes involved, but pretty much Gotham is like sectioned, kind of like Dark Knight Rises, where they kind of quarantine it in a way.
Yeah.
But everything's run down, the streets are destroyed, and then each part of Gotham is kind of run by the Joker runs this area, the mob runs this area, all these bad guys own each section of Gotham, and then Batman's just kind of stuck in the middle. Which, who knows, maybe that's going to happen kind of going forward, which would be pretty crazy. But before we get to one of the best scenes in the movie, I thought, you mentioned these crimes that the Riddler's committing, and we go back to that awesome Batman and Gordon's bond through this movie. Right from that first scene, where they're investigating the mayor's murder, you get that just kind of claustrophobic sense. You get the feeling of Batman walking down these hallways, all these cops looking at him like, who is this dude? Why is he here? Like, he shouldn't be here. And,
and knowing that they want to arrest him, half of them want to arrest him, half of them want to help, but still, like, it's probably very, very, and then he's got to go in there and investigate, and try to help.
And you can just see that, like, Batman's just checking everything out, like looking at everything, trying to, piece everything together. And then, of course, the commissioner comes in and flips out on Gordon right there for even allowing him on the crime scene. And, it's cool to see Gordon just have his back. Like, I'm vouching for him. And he even says, gets him out of here. And as they're walking out, like, he looks at something on the ground. He's like, what, you got something? He's like, he's helping him out. But
that's how the cops are in these, like, in the comics and in the movies. Like, they're just, Gordon's always got his back, but most of them are just like, man, Batman, you let Batman come in here? Why you let this freak come in here? Like, they all hate him, man.
And that just shows, like, they really go deep into, how corrupt Gotham is in this movie. And, the Falcone owns the police. He owns, the mayor. He owns the DA. He owns all this. Everybody's on payroll. And that it really shows you that whenever there's a point in this movie where Gordon tells Batman, he's like, you're the only guy I trust. And like, it's that bad where like, Batman's the only dude you can trust. After only 2 years of doing this dude in his suit just busted heads. He's like, you're the only dude I trust, man. Whatever you say.
It's right. Like, I don't, Batman might betray somebody, but it's gonna be because of the right reasons. Nice, like, not, I don't know how to explain that other than, like, I think of a situation with, like, a Superman losing it and Batman doing something that would be against Superman but for the good of humanity. Like, that's the only time I could see Batman betraying somebody like a Superman or a Gordon or any Robin, like, because at the end of the day he's still trying to protect everybody. But absolutely. he's Gordon's right, like, to trust Batman.
And I mean, you really that's where it kind of mirrors Seven, with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, where it's really kind of like that. It's Batman and Gordon going to these different crime scenes and then, checking out these different leads together, or, Batman just going and bust heads. But I like that dynamic because we've gotten the meetings between Batman and Gordon before, but we never really saw them kind of working together to solve this crime, to piece it out.
It's usually pretty generic for the most part.
And as far as we really got detective work in this movie, whereas maybe in like the old, like the Nolan movies, maybe you get like one scene of like, all right, this is the detective scene, or like, and like this is where he's like doing the work. I think, what was
back to blowing stuff up
in The Dark Knight? He like uses that like that bullet hole, and they like reconstruct the wall where the bullet hole went in, and the bullet, and they found the fingerprint on the bullet, and like that was it. That was like
that was the extent of the detective work that he did in that movie, other than, when he planted that phone or whatever, but like, still, it wasn't really detective.
And then Morgan, they just had like that sonar or whatever, that computer. But that was really extent where this was like nitty gritty. He didn't really have a lot of the technology. I mean, he had the, the contacts, but he didn't really have too much other than, his brain, and even that kind of he messes up sometimes.
He's a rookie still. I mean, I know it's been 2 years, but he's super green to this type of stuff, and he's just gonna get better with time.
Exactly. And we, with the discovery, because the whole reason the Riddler is doing this is just to expose the corruption within Gotham. The higher elite, they're just out for their own interests in the end, and that leads to the truth behind. And this was actually kind of bold to go and just set up the story with Martha is an Arkham. The big two families in Gotham were the Arkhams and the Waynes.
Mm-hmm.
And Martha was an Arkham, and she had problems. She was getting therapy, she was being committed in times, and Thomas Wayne was trying to hide this up because he was going on mayoral campaign, and then he paid Falcone to silence the writer that had the evidence of this and everything. And Falcone saw that as an opportunity, like, okay, I have this on you now. He ends up killing the dude, and just to have this over Thomas Wayne, and that's not what he wanted to happen. And that kind of sets up maybe Hush in the future, because the guys, I think it was Thomas Elliot, or no, Thomas Elliot's Hush, but it's his dad was the guy that was bringing the evidence to to bring down Thomas Wayne. So that could actually set up Hush in the future, the story, that graphic novel,
where Bruce has to deal with more from this past,
Exactly, and he's just trying to take down Bruce Wayne at that point, which would be a crazy storyline to put on film as well. But you really kind of get a backstory where maybe Bruce finds out maybe his dad wasn't as squeaky clean as he thought. And, there was a lot
This is really the first time that I'm seeing that type of thing. You always hear about Thomas Wayne being the great man, just like the founder of all this, and just Bruce looking up to him so much. But
it really tears his world apart when he finds out about that.
Yeah, and he's talking to Alfred about it. How like Alfred says like he was never 100% sure that it was, whether it was him or
Falcone
some random
or Maroni or just some other random person.
Right.
So I mean, but you
really
really
answer the movie,
Yeah, but he finds out like that wasn't meant to happen. Like he wasn't purposely trying to get this dude killed. He was just trying to protect his family at that point. Whether it was the right thing to do or not. But I thought that was a pretty interesting route to go in. And that actually, we kind of covered everything there, but the main scene I really want to talk about, and one of my favorite scenes of the movie, was after the Riddler gets caught, man. That interrogation scene where he's just on the other side of the glass and Batman's there.
He's
and at this point, you think Batman knows, like the Riddler knows who Bruce Wayne's Batman at this point. The reason he's going there, he's like, all right, he knows I'm like Bruce is Batman. He knows who I am. And that's really what you get, whether you see it in the trailer or he's just Bruce Wayne or whatever. And Paul Dano in this scene was absolutely amazing, and how just like evil he seemed, like how conniving he had us all put together and everything. Until he says like that one line where he's just like, we almost had him, or like I think that's what he says, where he's like Bruce Wayne or whatever, and he's like, and then we almost
got him.
And that's whenever like he doesn't know.
Wait a second. This motherfucker don't even know I'm Bruce Wayne.
But the whole time he's sitting there is so tense because he keeps saying like Bruce Wayne, and then he's talking about like, and then like Batman's look. There's a lot of like emotional, even though he's behind a cowl and everything, you can tell he's observing everything. It's like eye movements and everything. Like he's looking at the security cameras because he's like, oh, he's gonna call me out. He's gonna reveal my identity right here. But yeah, that was an amazing scene. And then, the whole thing is he thinks that he's working with Batman in a way, the Riddler. He thinks he's doing Batman's work.
Where I'm trying to lead you, he's more or less trying to lead him to the answers, but he's playing his own sick, twisted game at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's like, we're kind of doing the same thing in a way, except, the Riddler's not afraid to kill people. But he thinks that he's helping in a way. He thinks that they're going to be partners in some sort of way.
Ends justify the means, more or less.
Exactly. And obviously it's not. And I feel like it would have been weird. And that kind of goes into what I was going to say about the ending, where, you would maybe in these normal circumstances expect a showdown between maybe like the big baddie and a Batman. I would feel bad seeing Batman just whoop this dude's ass, because there would be no fighting back, dude.
No, he's just like the Joker in that scene in The Dark Knight where he's just laughing at him. Like he would be knocked out eventually, but there would be no fighting back whatsoever.
There'd be no fighting back, so they had to do something else there. But that scene was fantastic, man. And what he's just started kind of just as he's talking, he's just spiraling out of control and kind of gets crazier and crazier as they're talking, where he starts singing Ave Maria in the interrogation room. And then when Batman just kind of, shuts him down, then he just starts crying. Like he just starts freaking out and crying like, this wasn't supposed to happen. Like he just loses it at that point. And I mean, we got to talk about the other Arkham scene, man. In Arkham, I mean, this
the second one,
the second scene, man. I mean, whether they needed to do it or not, they did it. And Matt Reeves already said, like, don't expect, you know, this to carry into the second movie or anything. This was just kind of a throw-in type thing as of right now.
More or less to let you know he's there.
He's there. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, as everybody knows who watches, and I hope you're not watching this review without watching the movie, but they put the Joker in this movie. You don't really see him too well.
He's so creepy. You can 1000% tell that's the Joker, man. Yeah. Like,
and you see his grin behind the, you know, the glass a little bit, what you can see.
He even mentions there's one line about they all call you a clown or something like that. So
he even says the Riddler's line in it. He's like, riddle me this or whatever. No, I thought that was pretty cool.
Saying something about like what's something that gets more valuable the less you have, or something, that he's like a friend, or you know, he's you both start laughing like
yeah, so they're like, gonna be conniving together, maybe.
God. I could see them doing something in the third movie, like that's where the Joker is Batman's. If they only do a trilogy, Joker would be like the big bad, you know, the main nemesis there.
Yeah, and I mean the Matt Reeves had an interview about this. He actually talked about it. And he says that like this version of the Joker, even though you don't get to see him, there's 2 deleted scenes. They shot one other scene that they had in the movie, and they decided to take it out. But they said they will release it eventually for people to see. And Batman actually goes and talks to the Joker, kind of like a Silence of the Lambs thing, where he goes like where they meet with Hannibal Lecter to kind of catch the killer. Batman goes and talks to the Joker about how to catch the Riddler. And in that scene, apparently, the Joker even says like, "This is our 1-year anniversary," and like,
oh my God,
and it sets up like, all right, they already have a history at this point. And, you know, this is just the beginning of it. You know, Batman's just starting to really be Batman. The Joker isn't even really the Joker yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say he probably doesn't even know the extent of what the Joker's capable of.
Exactly. And another little thing that he kind of mentioned was this Joker has a defect where he's permanently smiling. Like he can't stop smiling. That's just the way his face is. So that's gonna be creepy. Kind of similar to like the Jack Nicholson one, I guess, but he had like that was just the way they kind of constructed his face. But it's gonna be similar to that, so I'm interested to see if he's gonna be in a future one. But it was a nice little hint in there, whether it was needed or not. But I'm looking forward to see it. I'm looking forward to see that extra scene, you know, with Batman kind of questioning the Joker here eventually. Mm-hmm. Go towards the end of this movie here. You know, you already mentioned the city flooding. Batman saves everybody. He's really trying to be. He finds out he's supposed to be a beacon of hope instead of just fear in the city. And now you just kind of where do you go from here? You know, Catwoman goes to Bloodhaven. He turns his way going back to Gotham because she thinks it's too far gone. You can't save Gotham at this point. But he's taking it upon himself.
But he's gonna try.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, rebuild the city. Do what you can. Just try to, like you said, just be a beacon of hope. You know, for the people. Yeah. And you know, mob bosses are gonna be moving in. He's just gonna be dealing with this, but it's his mission, you know. It's why he's here, and that's what he truly believes.
Yeah, I mean, this movie was fantastic. I can't wait to see it again. We did mention Alfred a little bit. We didn't really get into him just because he's not really in the movie too much. Andy, I don't really have a judgment on how Andy Serkis was, just because we didn't really get too much of him.
I keep thinking I'm like, every time he kept coming up on screen, I was like, this dude's trying to steal some vibranium, man. Like, the only reason he's here is so he can get the Wakanda and get that goddamn vibranium. That's what I was thinking every time I saw him on screen. I couldn't get
Bruce.
It was almost like
you gotta get me some vibranium.
It was almost like what we said about Morgan Freeman, where it kind of, if Morgan Freeman would have been in this movie, I would have been taken out of the movie a little bit. Seeing him in a movie like
that close to being in like Black Panther and everything, it
didn't. I don't know. It wasn't like a normal superhero recast. Like for me, I kept seeing him, even though he wasn't like being the same claw that he is in Marvel. I was like, man, this dude, he's got the same hair. Like he's got the sleeves rolled up. Like he's just
the vest and everything. The same thing. He just didn't have the beard.
Exactly, but he was awesome in this movie. Every time he was on screen, it was great. You know,
he was pretty decent.
Scenes out.
I'm hoping to see more of him, and especially get more involved going forward, especially if they start, I mean, they have. I feel like they have to. If Bruce starts being Bruce again, and he gets involved with the company, my guess he is going to get the technology from the company, and that's where he's going to really start becoming the Batman. With all the technology, like the gadgets and everything. Even though he
Having
has some of them
Alfred
now.
back at the
Exactly.
base, feeding him
Exactly.
info.
I think that's where we're going to be headed eventually, where Alfred is working with him to. I mean, we kind of saw it a little bit where he's solving the puzzles for him and the riddles.
Yeah, he was integral to that. Where he saw the word "drive" on
Yeah,
the screen there, and they found the
he
thumb
starts.
drive. He cut his
Oh
thumb
my god!
off.
Yeah,
That was weird. Like he found the car because the shears were stuck in the tire, and that's probably what they used to cut the
cut
thumb
the thumb
off.
off.
And oh my god, like that, the Riddler, it was awesome. It was so awesome to
It
see
was
this
awesome.
like come together, and them following the Riddler's breadcrumbs the whole time.
Yeah. And I mean, I already mentioned one of my favorite scenes was the interrogation. Before we kind of go into the closing stuff, I already mentioned it before, but one of the best parts, and I keep thinking about it, of the movie was probably the first 20 minutes, half hour of the movie. The whole introduction of just the Riddler, but also Batman, where man, just where it talks, where it's that monologue, it's like October 31st, like this. It just, oh
Mhm.
man, it gives me chills thinking about it. Where it's just, it reminds me of Watchmen, with Rorschach a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
but you get like the scenes where it shows like all these crimes going down, and then like it shows each one of them look towards a shadow, and he's like, they look in the shadows, and they'll know I could be there or whatever, like they see
It's like I may
the
not
light
be,
in the
but I could
sky, and it's a warning. And I'm like, oh my god, that is awesome. That is what Batman is supposed to be.
That's like you were saying though at the beginning of the movie, he thought he was going to solve the problem by only fear. By
Yeah.
the end of the movie, saw a whole different, like not a whole different Batman, but like you saw where he's growing already as far as what he needs to do to be who he needs to be, who he wants to be for the city here.
Yeah.
But exactly the whole beginning, like you were saying, when the criminals are looking at the shadows and they don't see it, like they're like, oh, he could be, and they got to another crime scene where there's criminals and there's a shadow and they're looking at it and they're like, let me go somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the third scene you see he
Oh my
slowly
god,
just
and it's just silent, and then you just hear the footsteps, like the thumping, and oh my god, it just gives you that presence. And then he just comes out of the shadows, man, and then whoops ass. Like the fight scenes in this, I felt were really good. Even though there wasn't a lot throughout the course of the movie, there was a couple decent scenes. But the fighting I thought was great in it. It was brutal.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one of my favorite scenes was the hallway where the only light in the scene was from the gun
Oh
flashes.
yeah. And apparently they did that practically,
Yeah, that
apparently.
was all practically shot. It wasn't like CGI or anything like that. It was
Yeah.
just that was literally lit by the gunshots,
Yeah.
the
And
muzzle flashes.
it reminds you of that scene in The Dark Knight Rises, but better. Because like
Better.
they were like, it wasn't just that one little scene you seen in the trailer. He's hiding up there in the elevator, it drops down, and it's like 20 seconds or 30 seconds of him just fucking all these dudes up while they're firing
Mm.
at him. I don't know how he doesn't get shot like in the jaw, but
I know, right? He's just taking all those bullets and then just whooping ass. Oh
yeah.
my god, it was so cool. It was
And
so
whenever
cool.
he takes down, the 4chan users there, that
Mhm.
the Riddler's goons there at the end, which was, it was cool to see how these guys get their henchmen and their Riddlers and their goons. You don't normally see that. They're just kind of there. And it was just funny to see that little video where it's normally like a scary Riddler, just like, Batman, I want to kind of like Saul, like I want to play a game. And then
Yeah.
it just shows like, his message like, hey guys, thanks for the followers and all that. Like, thanks for all the follows. I just
Right when we were watching, I whispered, I was like, "This is Batman in 2022." Like, you know what I mean? Like I said that to you, dude, while we were watching it. It it was crazy just to see the dynamic shift from the Jack Nicholson Batmans to now.
Yeah.
It's just it's so awesome. So, like you said, it was really cool to see how he was getting his henchmen, and the main plan was to blow everything up, flood the city, and force everybody inside that convention center, and then have like a
They were
massacre
gonna
in there.
kill the mayor elect and everything, man. And I mean, they almost succeeded in that. But man, that entrance as well where Batman just that you see like the little like detonations going off around the glass on the ceiling, and he just comes down through. That was fucking awesome. And then he's just immediately like kicking ass, like, and it reminded me of Arkham, where he's just fucking these dudes up, and then he'll kick them off the ledge, and they're already like connected to a rope, and they're just hanging there. Man, it was awesome, and I just can't wait to see more of that.
He's not trying to kill him, but it's just like so flawless the way he's executing everything.
Exactly, like it was planned out. Up until we already talked about getting the shotgun blast and from there. But overall, man, I love this movie. I cannot wait to watch it again. I definitely give it, a 9.5 out of 10. Definitely recommend watching this movie and scooping it as soon as it comes out. I'm definitely gonna buy this movie when it comes out.
I would say 9.5 would probably be my score I give this movie. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. So yeah, that's the review. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to watch all the content across the channel. We got a lot more reviews in store for you, along with a special project that's been in the works here. Kind of involving what we've been talking about, not just Batman, but superheroes in general. So be on the lookout for that here. We're going to announce that shortly. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, at Waves 5 Media, and also Squad Pod Sports on there as well. Like and subscribe, and we'll see everybody next time.